Good day and welcome to Transition Planning Training Level 2. Transition and College Access Centers, Mission and Vision Statement. The Transition and College Access Center supports schools and families by facilitating a seamless transition for students from school to adult life. All students are provided with experiences that foster their academic, social, emotional, and vocational growth and excellence, facilitating multiple pathways to graduation and success after high school. Outcomes: to obtain an understanding of transition, which includes planning considerations, quality IEP development, notices and CSIS management protocols, stakeholder roles and responsibilities. Identify and apply understanding of state performance plan, SPP, indicators related to transition, and access resources. IDEA versus ADA. Individuals with the Disabilities Act, IDEA, ensures that all children with disabilities have available to them a free and appropriate public education that includes special education and related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. The phrase further education and the emphasis on effective transition services was added to IDEA in 2004. Section 1400C describes the need to provide effective transition services to promote successful post-school employment and/or education. Students with disabilities are entitled to the above noted supports and the services up until they graduate high school or turn 21. The American Disabilities Act, ADA. This prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities in everyday activities. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability, just as other civil rights laws prohibit discrimination on the basis of race, sex, color, national origin, age, and religion. It guarantees that people with disabilities have the same opportunities as everyone else to enjoy employment opportunities, purchase goods and services, and participate in state and local government programs. Individuals with disabilities are eligible to access individualized supports and services. What's the purpose of this training? In compliance with the 2022 Class Action Settlement, the DOE is required to provide 3 levels of training regarding transitioning planning for students with individualized IEP programs, IEPs, annually during the 3-year settlement term to ensure that all relevant staff are trained on quality transition planning. This is the second level of the required training. Your first training was done last year. Transition terms to know. Transition planning is results-oriented process that focuses on improving the academic and functional achievement of students with disabilities to facilitate their movement from school to post-school activities. Transition services are a coordinated set of activities for students with disabilities that are designed with a results-oriented process to promote movement from school to post-school activities. Transition services must be based on the individual's students' needs, taking into account their strengths, preferences, and interests. Post-school activities include post-secondary education, vocational education, integrated employment, including supported employment, continuing and adult education, adult services, independent living, and/or community participation. What is transition planning? Purpose is to give structure for preparing the student to live, work, and integrate in the community as fully and independently as possible. Process: the student, school staff, family members, and/or community organizations share information, agree on goals, and create a plan for the student's life after high school. Some transition-related guidance can be found here. New Guide to Transition Planning for Students with Disabilities. Transition planning considerations. Transition planning to employment, recreation and leisure, transportation, education, training, community living, self-advocacy, and independence. Beginning in elementary school, students learn academic and personal behaviors that support learning, engagement, and persistence. Students discover interests and become more self-aware. Self-determination skills are fostered to support choice-making, goal-setting, and self-advocacy. Students are exposed to community leisure activities. Students explore mobility and communication options. Starting with the first IEP to be in effect during the school year in which a child turns 12, and every year thereafter, career and vocational inventories addressing the child's interests and preferences for the future are completed by and about the student and used to inform IEP development. A transition folder is created for each student with an IEP. CDOS standards and performance indicators are used to support instructional planning. Continuing in middle school. Starting with the first IEP to be in effect during the school year in which the child turns 12 and every year thereafter, career and vocational inventories addressing the child's interests and preferences for the future are completed by and about the student and used to inform IEP development. Beginning the year the child turns 14, students are eligible to engage in work-based learning. They should be provided with opportunities to participate in community, career exploration, and leisure activities. Starting with the first IEP to be in effect during the school year in which a child turns 15 or younger if determined appropriate, and every year thereafter. Transition goals and services are put in place and the child's progress is monitored. Students are invited to attend their IEP meetings. Students are provided opportunities to increase responsibilities or independence in school and at home. For example, travel training. A transition folder is maintained for each student with an IEP. Continuing into high school. Annually update career and vocational inventories to inform all aspects of the IEP, ensuring student voice and participation in all IEP meetings. Include transition goals and services that reflect vocational assessment data and planning for post-secondary life. Participate in internships, work-based learning, and other employment opportunities. Explore graduation pathways and identify which one is appropriate, program for courses, and experiences that enable students to meet CDOS commencement credential requirements, track progress. Maintain updated career plans and employability profiles. Partner student and family with external agencies. Some examples are Adult and Career, Continuing Education Service, Vocational Rehab, Access VR, Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, OPWDD, Transition and College Access Centers, TCAC. Determine if travel training is appropriate. Research and apply for college, vocational, or training programs. Explore adult living options. Reminder, update transition folder to include related artifacts. Last year before high school graduation or school exit. Complete an exit summary. Ensure that all CDOS artifacts and documents are complete. Employability profile, career plan. Confirm arrangements are in place for post-secondary activities, for example, daily living, learning, and earning. Inform student and family of a student right to remain in school until the end of the school year in which she or he turns 21 or until the receipt of a regular high school diploma. Furnish student and family with information on accessing accommodations at college, in the workplace, or through community-based services. An exit summary. An exit summary provides a meaningful picture of the exiting student's strengths, abilities, skills, functional and academic levels, needs, limitations, necessary accommodations, and recommendations that will support the student's post-secondary goals. It must be completed with and provided to the student prior to the end of the school year in which the student graduates or ages out. This must be maintained or logged in CSIS. It assists the student in establishing eligibility for reasonable accommodations and supports in the post-secondary education, the workplace, and the community. It assists the student in establishing eligibility for adult vocational rehabilitation services. Completing the exit summary. In Part 1, background information. Information on the student and the person completing the form. Put in the general school number and website along with job title and email address of the school-based point for any needed future outreach. Part 2, summary of present levels. Found in the PLOP section of the IEP, reading, math, language, learning characteristics, social and behavioral development. Part 3, accommodations and supports. Indicate whether the student currently requires accommodations including, but not limited to, assistive technology and environmental or material resources or modifications. Part 4, independent living. Identify the post-school environment the student intends to transition to upon completion of his or her high school education and draft goals accordingly, according to education, employment, and independent living. Part 5, recommendations that may assist the student in reaching post-secondary goals. Brief narrative about what will assist the student in meeting goals in the 3 areas of transition: independent living, employment, education, career training. Part 6, identify organizations or agencies to provide support linkage. Provide specific contact information for individuals and or agencies if available. Next section will be on quality IEP development. The IEP is the cornerstone of the special education process. A, it supports participation in the general education curriculum and learning standards. B, it identifies how the resources of the school need to be configured to support the student's needs. C, it guides the provision of instruction designed to meet a student's needs. D, it identifies how the student will be prepared for adult living. E, it ensures a strategic and coordinated approach to address a student's needs. And F, provides an accountability tool. What section of the IEP supports transition? Assessments at the top. Coordinated set of transition activities, present levels of performance, the PLOP, annual IEP goals aligned, measurable post-secondary goals, and transition needs. Overview of requirements. Vocational assessments. With the meeting to develop the IEP for the year in which the student turns 12 and annually thereafter, career and vocational inventories must be administered to collect information about the student's abilities, preferences, behaviors, and/or interests in order to identify future education, living, personal, community, and career goals. Measurable post-secondary goals. With the meeting to develop the IEP for the year in which the student turns 15 and annually thereafter, the IEP team must include goals for the student's life after high school. This includes education, employment, and independent living. Transition needs. With the meeting to develop the IEP for the year in which the student turns 15 and annually thereafter, the IEP must include a statement of the student's transition needs, focusing on the student's courses of study as they relate to transition from school to post-school activities. Coordinated set of transition activities. With the meeting to develop the IEP for the year in which the student turns 15 and annually thereafter, the IEP must include activities and services that the school or participating transition agency, if applicable, will provide to help the student gain the skills they will need to meet their post-secondary goals. Student invite to the IEP meeting. Beginning when the student is 14 years old or any time post-secondary transition will be discussed at an IEP meeting, the student must be invited. The student is encouraged to actively participate in the IEP meeting by sharing their strengths, interests, preference, and needs. It all begins with assessments. What is the role of assessment in the transition planning process? Transition assessment is the ongoing process of collecting data on the individual's needs, preferences, and interests as they relate to the demands of current and future working, educational, living, personal, and social environments. Assessment data serves as the common thread in the transition process and forms the basis for defining goals and services to be included in the IEP. School-level data sources: state ELA and math scores, school formative assessments, New York State Regents exam scores, credit accumulation, credits earned in progress and needed, results of the most recent individual evaluation of the students, NYSAA data, diploma pathway, Regents, local, CDOS, NYSITEL, L upon entering for ML or L students, NYSIS Lat yearly for multilingual and ESL students, assessment data collected by the related service providers, assessment administered by the SBST, also attendance percentage. Career and vocational inventories for students ages 12 and older, interest and learning style inventories, career cluster surveys, NYSID career plan, self-determination scales, social skills review, and other transition assessments. CDOS aligned WBL program participation, if applicable, employability profile. Educational staff reports must be completed by an educational professional with direct knowledge of the student. Parent questionnaire and interview. Student vocational interview occurs once annually, commencing the school year in which the student is turning 12. It requires collaboration between student, school, family, and community partners. It gathers information from the student in and outside of the school environment to assess basic skills and determine the student's interests. Uses realistic outcomes of the student, parent, and staff assessments to aid in planning for the student's movement towards post-secondary readiness across all transition domains, employment, education, and independent living. Drives the individualized development of the student's IEP, example, present levels of performance, transition needs, measurable post-secondary goals, and coordinated set of transition activities, as well as the identification of the responsibilities of the school and or, when applicable, a participating agency for the provision of such services. How do I conduct a developmentally and age-appropriate transition assessment? The following are suggested guidelines for developing your transition assessment process. Assessments should capture student interests, abilities, aptitudes, and individual needs and accommodations. This may include the use of formal and informal methods, for example, in-school and community-based assessments, hands-on activities, work samples, vocational evaluations, observations, and work performance measures. Assessments should be age and developmentally appropriate as well as culturally responsive. Information should be obtained through a one-to-one directed conversation between the student and the educational professional who is administering the assessment in order to garner direct input. Assessment methods should be ongoing and varied and include a sequence of activities that sample an individual's behaviors and skills over time. Assessments should be administered, overseen by an educational professional. Assessment data should be verified by more than one method and by more than one person. Components of the completed assessments should be available at the IEP meeting. Assessment methods occur in environments that resemble actual vocational training, employment, independent living, or community environments. Assessments should be conducted with the appropriate accommodations, services, and supports necessary for the student's skills, interests, strengths, and abilities to be accurately identified and assessed. Assessment data is synthesized and interpreted to students with disabilities, their families, and transition team members. Okay, this is an example of an annual goal, what it looks like on the IEP and on their progress report. The following goals are recommended to enable the student to be involved in and progress in the general education curriculum. Address other educational needs that result from the student's disability and prepare the student to meet his or her post-secondary goals. Annual goals, what will be expected? How will you measure? What's the criteria? What method will you use? And your schedule. How often will you progress monitor? Measurable post-secondary goals to be attained after high school graduation exit should be listed under the page, beginning not later than the first IEP to be in effect when the student is age 15 and at younger age if determined appropriate. Measurable post-secondary goals, long-term goals for living, working, and learning as an adult. This is the page for post-secondary goals. Aligning AG with the MPSG. Sample student profile. Johnny has expressed that he wants to live and work independently after high school. He has expressed a strong and ongoing interest in driving commercial trucks. Johnny will need to establish routines that will guide the habits and practices required for independent living in addition to learning the skills needed to pass the commercial driver's license test. Education and training goals. Measurable post-secondary goal. After graduation from high school, Johnny will attend a commercial driving school to obtain a commercial truck driver license. The annual goal alignment. By the end of the school year, Johnny will determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in nonfiction text with 75% accuracy in 3 out of 4 trials as measured by verbal explanation. Employment goals. Measurable post-secondary goal. After successful completion of a commercial driving school program, Johnny will obtain a full-time job as a commercial truck driver. Annual goal alignment. Within 1 school year, Johnny will be able to solve multi-step equations, identify solutions that do not satisfy the original equation, and explain his answer with 80% accuracy in 3 out of 4 trials as evidenced by performance tasks. Independent living skills. Measurable post-secondary goal. Upon completion of high school, Johnny will independently prepare for work each day, including dressing, making lunch, and accessing public transportation. Annual goal alignment. In 1 year, Johnny will be able to manage a daily planner to organize his tasks by priority with a maximum of 1 prompt per trial as measured by provider observation. Transition needs statement. Considering the student's present levels of performance and needs and taking into account strengths, preferences, and interests as they relate to transition from school to post-school activities. We develop a statement of the transition service needs of the student that focuses on the student's course of study, such as participation in advanced placement courses or a CTE program. Transition service needs snapshot. Transition service needs includes courses of study aligned with the student's measurable post-secondary goals, current student transcript courses, credits, and exams as follows. Already have. Student has accumulated credits out of 44 credits and has taken blank regions and note scores needed to graduate with the region's local diploma. Currently scheduled for. Student is currently scheduled for the following courses, credits, regions. Students need to graduate. Student needs math 4 credits, 2 credits algebra, 2 credits geometry in order to graduate with a region's local diploma. Suggested courses to support career goal, example, team discussion at the meeting. Suggested courses, electives, clubs for student to take that will support the student's measurable post-secondary goal career choice. CDOS aligned experiences include multi-year courses, descriptions, Number of hours, for example, student has blank, is currently taking blank, and needs to take blank as noted and described in the plot, including work-based learning experiences. NYSAA, SACC if applicable. Include multi-year courses, descriptions, for example, student has blank and is currently taking blank and needs to take blank as noted and described in the plot. Preferences and interest. According to vocational assessment, name, date, student wants to be a and blank. Student participates in the following classes, clubs, and activities to support progress to goals. Coordinated set of transition activities page. Services activities are to be completed during an annual implementation of the IEP. Instruction. For example, student will receive instruction in guidance counselor. No specific person's name should be noted here. Student parents should not be listed in this column. External agency should not be listed. Instruction. Instruction includes courses, skill training, and or further educational experiences that your child may need in order to achieve post-school plans. Examples: attend study skills classes to learn how to maintain a timeline for assignments and to practice using organizational strategies. Meet regularly with high school guidance counselor to complete necessary paperwork for college admissions. Participate in Regents preparation courses in English, math, science, and history. Collect information about academic requirements for community college career programs. Enroll in an independent living course to continue practicing self-care skills, and continue travel training to learn transportation routes from work and school. Instruction. And then related services. Related services are services such as counseling, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech or language therapy that your child may need to work towards their post-secondary goals. Examples: speech services to improve expressive communication and generalized communication skills to a variety of settings. Mobility training and orientation to be able to walk from school to home and volunteer site. Physical therapy to assist in increasing sitting endurance and trunk control. Community experiences. Community-based experiences are local experiences or resources. For example, after-school jobs, community recreational activities, use of community-based organizations. Your child may need to prepare him or her to participate in community life. Some examples are volunteering at a hospital or other volunteer site, obtain and complete an application for a free library card, obtain a driver's license or non-driver's ID, open a bank account, learn about and visit community resources such as the library, post office, and local recreational resources and programs, demonstrate understanding of how to find and secure housing after graduating high school. Note: student, parent, guardian, and external agencies may not be listed as responsible parties. Development of employment and other post-school adult living objectives. What skill does the student need to acquire or develop in order to live independently and be employed? This must directly address the transition needs. For example, budgeting, opening a bank account, writing a resume and a cover letter, going on a job interview, conducting an interview with a professional in their career interest. Acquisition of daily living skills. What services or activities will assist the student in developing his or her daily living skills? This must directly address the transition needs. For example, personal hygiene, self-care skills, time management, independent travel, etc. If it is not applicable, please write considered but not applicable at this time. Functional vocational assessment. Does the student need a functional vocational assessment to determine his or her strengths, abilities, and needs in an actual or simulated work environment as a part of a transition service or activity? This must directly address the transition needs. If not applicable, write considered but not applicable at this time. Note, in the last column, student, parent, guardian, and external agencies may not be listed as responsible parties. Career Development and Occupational Studies, CDOS Learning Standards. Number 1, career development. Who am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there? 2, integrated learning. What am I learning? Why am I learning it? How can I use it? 3A, universal foundation skills. What do I need to know? What skills are important for me? 3B, career majors. What skills do I need for a specific career? CDOS connection to IEP transition planning. Connection to Individualized Education Program IEP transition plan. Measurable post-secondary and annual goals, career plan. Instruction in courses of studies, CDOS Learning Standards CTE coursework. Transition activities, work-based learning. Notices and CSIS management protocols. You have an overview of letters for family, which explains each step. You have an IEP meeting notice. This must be sent to the parent or guardian at least 7 calendar days in advance of the meeting. The school should also provide the parent with all assessments and reports before the IEP meeting by mailing them at least 7 calendar days before the IEP meeting is scheduled. Please be reminded to include Get Help in Your Language notice to all parents. All outreach, including any changes, must be maintained or logged in CSIS. If the parent indicates inability to attend and cannot reschedule, the parent must be invited to participate in the meeting via telephone. In order for a meeting to proceed without a parent, the IEP team must make appropriate outreach to confirm parent attendance, at least 2 attempts at telephone contact or different times of the school day, evening, or a follow-up letter sent to a parent. If the parent does not have a telephone or a voicemail could not be left, attempts must be documented in the CSIS events log. Student invite. Attendance page. The school must send or provide each student with an IEP meeting notice prior to any IEP meeting at which the PSGs and the transition services will be discussed. This must be documented in CSIS. Student invite must include date sent, date of meeting, school's contact person's name and contact, name, phone number, and or email. A copy must be uploaded to CSIS. Student and parents' names must be listed on attendance sheet regardless of whether they attend the IEP meeting or not. Student and parent voice must be included in the IEP regardless of whether they attend the IEP meeting or not. If the meeting is rescheduled, the parent notice and the student invite must be updated to reflect the new date and time of meeting, and CSIS event log must be recorded. This is an example of a student invite. Agency invite. Is there documented evidence that representatives of any of the following agencies' services were invited to participate in the IEP development, including but not limited to post-secondary education, vocational education, integrated employment, included supported employment, continuing and adult education, adult services, independent living, or community participation for the post-secondary goals? Prior consent must be obtained from the parent or the student who has reached the age of 18 before inviting an agency. Agency, if applicable, must be listed on the attendance sheet and only if prior parent consent has been received and documented in CSIS. Here is an example of an agency invite. State Performance Plan, SPP indicators. State Performance Plan, SPP indicators. Indicator 1, graduation. Indicator 2, dropout. Indicator 3, assessment. Indicator 4, suspension, expulsion. Indicator 5, LRE, school age. Indicator 6, LRE, preschool. Indicator 7, preschool outcomes. Indicator 8, parent involvement. Indicator 9, disproportionate representation in special education by race, ethnicity. Indicator 10, disproportionate representation in classification, placement by race or ethnicity. Indicator 11, child find. Indicator 12, early childhood transition. Indicator 13, secondary transition. Indicator 14, post-school outcomes. Indicator 15, resolution sessions. Indicator 16, mediation agreements. Indicator 17, state systemic improvement plan. Which indicators are related to transition? Indicator 1, graduation rates. Indicator 2, dropout rates. 3, statewide assessments. Indicator 8, parental involvement. Indicator 14, post-school outcomes. Indicator 13, secondary transition. And Indicator 5, least restrictive environment, school age. SPP Indicator 13. Indicator 13 of the SPP requires the state to annually report the percent of youth with individualized education programs aged 15 and above with an IEP that includes appropriate measurable post-secondary goals that are annually updated and based upon age-appropriate transition assessment, transition services including courses of study that will reasonably enable the student to meet those post-secondary goals, and annual IEP goals related to the student's transition services and needs. There must also be evidence that the student was invited to participate in the IEP team meeting, where transition services are to be discussed, and evidence that, if appropriate, a representative of any participating agency was invited to the IEP team meeting with the prior consent of the parent or student who has reached the age of majority. While federal regulations require transition planning to begin with the first IEP in effect at age 16, New York State law requires transition planning on a student's IEP beginning with the IEP in effect when the student turns age 15. Areas of IEP focus, SPP 13 and transition planning. Age and developmentally appropriate transition planning, beginning the year the student turns 12, based on ongoing and varied career and vocational assessment, data, and inclusive of student, parent, guardian, and educational staff. Present levels of performance describe student strengths, needs, preferences, and interest. Measurable post-secondary goal, all annually updated. All must have direct connection to the career and vocational assessment, PLOP, and CTAs. Course of study and transition needs, beginning the year the student turns 15, outlines transition services, including courses of study, that will reasonably enable the student to meet their post-secondary goals. Coordinated set of transition activities, including instruction-related services, community experience, employment, and other post-school living objectives. All CTAs must have a direct connection to the career vocational assessments, PLOP, and MPSGs. Annual goals, skills-based and aligned to the student's transition service needs. Student invite, evidence that the student was invited to participate in the annual IEP review. beginning the year the student turns 15, via a written student invitation to the IEP meeting, attendance at where the IEP meeting and student voice included in the IEP. Agency invite. Evidence that, if appropriate, a representative at any participating agency was invited to the CSE meeting with prior consent of the parent or the student who's reached 18 of age. School must send written notice with request for parent consent. Can be obtained verbally or in writing, must be recorded in the CSES event log. Stakeholders' roles and responsibilities. Stakeholders, students, families, educators and school staff, community-based organizations, business entities, post-secondary institutions. Student role. The student role is to learn about the transition process, complete vocational assessments annually, explore career interests and options, develop self-advocacy skills, voice interests, preferences, and goals. Reflect on strengths and needs to determine which graduation option is most appropriate. Speak with career and/or guidance counselor to identify appropriate courses to help reach post-secondary goals. Learn more about their disability and how to get additional supports to reach their post-secondary goals. Attend annual IEP meetings to review and discuss the above areas. Ask questions. Parent or guardian role. Their role is to learn about the transition planning process. They should share observations, thoughts, and concerns about their child's strengths, needs, and preferences with the school. Complete the parent portion of the vocational interview questionnaire annually. Help their child explore their present interests and future goals. Advocate for their child and assist them in developing self-advocacy skills. Become knowledgeable about graduation requirements, diploma pathways, post-school options, and resources. Determine how much assistance their child will need to acquire independence. Identify the people's agencies and resources that could help their child reach their goal. Attend the child's annual IEP meeting and review and discuss the goals, progress, and needs, as well as the supports being provided. Check in with their child's school regarding the supports and services identified in the IEP and how they are being provided. Keep records of the transition-related school-related services and activities that occur. Ask questions. Educational staff SBST role. Help the students explore their goals for adult life. Administer a variety of transition assessments to learn about students' strengths, needs, interests, and preferences as they relate to education, employment, and independent living. Work with the student to develop measurable post-secondary goals. Engage the student in a coordinated set of transition activities that are aligned to their goals. Become familiar with outside agency service provider representatives and their programs. Coordinate IEP meetings that include representation from all stakeholders. Ensure consent before coordinating and securing services. Provide explicit instruction on self-determination and self-advocacy skills. Provide guidance on the legal rights of individuals with disabilities. Encourage the student to communicate with school personnel and monitor progress towards IEP goals. School guidance counselor role. Assess students for career interest and aptitude leading to the student's desired career path. Develop 4-year educational or career plans for the students. Develop and update annual transition plans. Beginning in the year that the child turns 15 and annually thereafter, guide the development and revision of the transition plan. Facilitate conversation about student strengths, interests, needs, and preferences. Discuss graduation requirements, diploma pathways, post-school options, and resources. Provide guidance on the goals that would be appropriate to help the student reach his or her goals. Other agency representative role. Attend IEP meetings when invited. Actively participate with other IEP team meeting members to align plans and services. Provide information on resources and supports available to the students reach their goals. Provide necessary services and supports to help the students reach their goals. Here's a page of resources. TCAC also offers staff workshops. Next steps. At least one designee from each school who attends the Level 2 training must turnkey the training to relevant staff at their schools. An attendance record that includes the turnkey training date, facilitator, and participant names, roles, and the school DBN must be submitted. So, thank you so much for being a part of our webinar. This is the Level 2 transition training. There will be one more. I will follow up with the next one. Have a wonderful day.